What's going on, everybody? We are back after a couple weeks off again. I know this is the off season, but we're back to talk some college football. I know it's college basketball season and everything, but we're ready to talk college coaches and head coaches, to be exact. Today we are going to go over On3's Ari Wasserman, his college football coaches list he put out a couple weeks ago. I know we're a little late to the game here, but we really wanted to take our time and dissect the list. Kind of see where he went wrong in our mind, and then obviously we're gonna tell you guys our own top 15 list, each of us. While we have you here, it's it's March Madness season, and I know we're a college football podcast, but we're gonna do whatever we want on here. And next week, be on the lookout. We're gonna release March Madness preview. Giving everybody our own, bracket of integrity, shall you say, and seeing how we do. So that should be a fun time. It's always a good time of the year on the calendar.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure everybody knows Ari's list. He did a top 25 list of top 25, like his top 25 coaches in college football going into this upcoming 2025 season. So yeah, we're going to dissect that. And before we get into this head coaching stuff, man, with college football, really the coordinators and assistant coaches, and really coordinators specifically, have dominated the headlines this offseason. Like, I don't ever, how much I love talking college football coaches, man. It's like one of my favorite things to do. But it's been, I don't remember a year where like the coordinators dominated the offseason as much as they did this past year because of the revenue share deal that's coming with college football. A lot of your teams and a lot of your programs did not fire head coaches, so there wasn't as much head coaching movement this past season. So assistant coaches stole the show. I mean, it's been wild, man, seeing for example, Ryan Grubb leaving the got fired at the Seattle Seahawks, and he's now with Alabama. And then you've got Chip Kelly leaving Ohio State, going to the pros, and Ohio State bringing in new coordinators, bringing in Matt Patricia at defensive coordinator there at Ohio State. Just the overall headlines in general have been dominated by these assistant coaching hires this offseason. And so when Ari and Andy at On3, Andy Staples at On3, great show, by the way, when they came out with their top 25 head coaches list, and we've seen some other guys do the top coaches list, I was excited, man, to get into this. And again, like Tyler said, stay with us as we'll also, I'm sure Tyler will probably timestamp it as well. We'll also give our own list of our top 15 who we have as our top 15 coaches in college football going into this 2025 season.
Yep. Let's jump right into it, man. We got Ari Wasserman On3. He dropped his top 25 coaches list heading into 2025. Let's run down the first 5 names here. Obviously, you got number 1, Kirby Smart. Number 2, Ryan Day. 3, Dan Lanning. 4, Steve Sarkisian. And 5, Marcus Freeman. I think we're probably both in agreement. Kirby's number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty easy, right?
To me, I don't think on the entire list of 1 through 25, I think that is the most undisputed. Like, there is no disputing that. He's still the number 1 head coach in college football.
Yeah.
He had a down year this past year and won the SEC championship and was close again, making another college football semifinal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and he's got Ryan Day number 2. And I don't really want to spoil anything as far as my own lists and everything, but that seems to be, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a
prisoner of the moment.
Prisoner of the moment, yeah, prisoner of the moment. Just coming off a national championship in a season where he didn't even win his own conference.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because I agree that the way that our brains are trained and our minds are trained in college football, the regular season has always meant so much, and conference races have always meant so much. And in this new model of college football that we've got now with the expanded playoffs that we have, that the postseason is now obviously going to have a lot larger of an emphasis on the sport in general. So it does allow for a coach to maybe not have the regular season and conference race that they normally would have. Then they go on a run in the playoff like Ryan Day just did. honestly, man, I don't really have a huge problem with it. I do think that there obviously is some recency bias with that. Like, obviously, if he didn't win the national championship this past year, would he even be top 4
Right.
on this list? I don't know. But for me, it's not even just the fact that he just won the national championship. That's obviously a huge deal. He won a national championship. The run that they went on in the college football playoff, beating the teams that they beat in the playoff, beating Tennessee, beating number 1 Oregon, beating highly ranked Texas, and beating highly ranked Notre Dame, going on a run like that, beating Penn State in the regular season, beating Indiana in the regular season, both playoff teams. I mean, that's still an incredible run, man, even though they did have 2 losses in the regular season. But it's also, too, the longevity, man, of what Ryan Day has done in his career as far as, I mean, dude, basically he's clapped everybody's cheeks, not named Michigan, in his career. So his overall record and the fact now that he has that, that gorilla, monkey, whatever you want to call it, that was on his back, not being able to win the big one in the national championship game and win that playoff game type deal. He did win a national championship, so I'm okay with it. But I get it. I get it if you want to argue against it.
Yeah, Dan Lanning at number 3. I mean, to me, he's in danger of becoming, before the national championship, he's becoming the next Ryan Day.
Yeah,
like, wins a lot of games, but hasn't gotten it done in the postseason.
Nope. In this past year, he finally did win some big. He at least won some big games. And again, very young head coaching career. What was this?
Yeah.
Is this upcoming year his fourth
year at Oregon? Yeah,
4th year at Oregon. Yeah, it's either 3rd or 4th. I think it's his upcoming year. It's either 3rd or 4th. But this past year, he did beat Ohio State in the regular season. He did beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. So that's 2 big wins in a very early coaching career. Before that, he had issues beating like against Kalen DeBoer, for example, when at Washington. He did have trouble winning the bigger. He got this absolute ass kicked by Georgia and Kirby Smart in that first game of the year for Oregon a couple of years ago. So up until this past year, he'd really been getting it handed to him in the bigger games.
Yeah.
He got that monkey off his back beating Ohio State and Penn State this past year. But again, obviously, the Rose Bowl, yikes. So you're right. He needs to, in a hurry, win some bigger games in the postseason, or he will start getting that. He'll be the next one, start getting kind of tagged as the one that can't win the bigger games in the postseason pretty quickly if he doesn't.
Yeah. You got Sark with back-to-back Final Fours, and then Marcus Freeman coming off a national championship appearance as well. 6 through 10, got Dabo Swinney, Deion Sanders, Kyle Whittingham, Kalen DeBoer, and Josh Heupel.
Well, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I know we'll probably get to it on our own lists. Dabo at 6. Obviously, multiple national championships. He's the only other coach not named Kirby Smart to have multiple national titles. Do you think that because of his, I know he did pick up a couple of transfers this past year, but his overall lack of adapting to the new age of college football as a whole, do you think that's why he's knocked down a little bit at 6? Again, the recency bias stuff. Like, I'm just wondering, when does it become a thing to where, like, you do start knocking him a little bit? But, like, I keep going back to the fact, dude, he still won the ACC championship this past year. Like, I went back and looked at it. Since, like, 2015, Clemson still has averaged over 11 wins per year since 2015. Multiple national championships. I just don't know how many years it takes to, like, possibly where you kind of lose a little bit of your status and you do continue to drop on the list. Like, still for me, man, I would be for example, I would be okay. Like, I think Andy actually did. Maybe I'm wrong. I think Andy actually had Dabo at like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Having Dabo and Deion right next to each other, like,
joke.
Deion, I mean, that's having Deion Sanders, no disrespect to Ari, but that's a total bait job. And this post is, a couple weeks old, so I'm not sure how well that worked out for him, but there's no way that Deion deserves to be in the top 10.
No.
And I'm not sure he deserves to be in
the top
15.
20.
Like, it's crazy.
Great year this past year. Incredible year.
Yeah.
Like, it really was. Like, to take the team that he took over, there was a complete dumpster fire at Colorado. Yeah. And then in year 2, have the year that he had this past year. Incredible. Heisman Trophy winner, all of that. That's remarkable. But that doesn't mean that you're a top 15, top 20 coach just doing that for 1 year. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 8 and 9, you got Whittingham and DeBoer. I think this is where it gets tricky for me. I think DeBoer, like, just on the face of it, looking at him as the number 9 head coach, I think he should be higher. But, like, I can't really put him ahead of Kyle Whittingham. Like, just like the longevity, the head-to-head they've had and everything. Like, I would put Whittingham above DeBoer.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a minute on our on our own list.
I'd put
But,
DeBoer
like,
above Dion, like for
yeah,
sure.
no, for
You know,
sure.
but
But you know what I think of Witt. You know what I think of Whittingham. Like, we both, like, we're huge fans of Kyle Whittingham and your Lance Leiopolds and your Chris Kleiman's here on this show. The guys that always do more with less. We love those guys. But yeah, I mean, I personally would have DeBoer ahead of Whittingham, and I know you're going to say shocker, Bama fan. But still, what he did at Washington, what he's done overall in his career in coaching, like. But again, if you want to argue against me that you think Whittingham should be ahead of him, I get it. Like, Whittingham's longevity overall at Utah, and it probably is not talked about enough. The job that he did taking Utah from the Mountain West to the Pac-12 and how quickly he had Utah competing at a really high level. A lot of your teams that went from the Group of Five to the Power Five before the transfer portal era, where you could just go get players like that was remarkable what he did. So I mean, I don't really push back against it.
Yeah. 11 through 15. This is where it gets interesting with his list. You got Mario Cristobal at 11, which is hilarious. Hilarious. Kurt Signetti and Kenny Dillingham coming in at 12 and 13, fresh off of CFP appearances. You got Lance Leipold at 14, and good old James Franklin all the way down at 15.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry.
Shockingly, that seems a little low to me. I mean, I'm not a big James Franklin fan, but 15 seems a little low. And then right behind him, I'll just go ahead and get to it. Number 16, Brian Kelly. That seems a little low too.
It's not a little low. In my humble opinion, it's very low. You're talking about, I mean, isn't he the winningest coach in Notre Dame football history?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and
I think he's a second active, like a minimum of like 10 seasons. He has the second best active winning percentage behind Dabo.
Yeah, see, man, again, this is recency bias that he lost 4 games like 2 years in a row with really talented LSU teams. And I agree. If this coming up year with what he's got coming back, if he loses 4 games again or really underachieves, sure, drop him more on the list. He dropped a little bit on my list, but not all the way down to 16. Like, I'm sorry, get out of here with that. James Franklin, same thing. We can all make fun of big game James and how he doesn't win all these big games and how he doesn't win games as an underdog and doesn't beat the best teams he plays against. Sorry, no offense to Boise and SMU. That's not Ohio State. That's not Michigan when Michigan's Michigan. That's not Notre Dame this past year. Good teams, but that's not the top upper echelon teams of college football that James Franklin normally loses to. Still, Franklin wins a lot of games and double-digit games almost every single year, multiple Rose Bowl appearances, college football semifinals appearance. He should be higher on this list, man. Cristobal being at 11 it's almost as egregious to me as Dion being at 7.
Yeah.
Again, there isn't a coach in college football that does less with more than Mario. There just isn't. And he actually had a really good year this past year. But if you really want to break it down, having Cam Ward and the overall talent that Miami had and the schedule that they played to lose to Georgia Tech and to Syracuse with the team that they had, that is absolutely Mario Cristobal in a nutshell.
Yep.
Again, underachieving. I don't care how many games Miami won this past year. He underachieved with that Miami team this past year. There is no reason in hell they shouldn't have been a top 12 team.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been in that ACC championship game with the team that they had.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's way too high.
Yep.
For him.
17, Lane Kiffin. 18, Brett Bielema. 19, Sharon Moore. 20, Kirk Ferentz. Again, Sharon Moore, 19, too high.
Yeah. What's he done so far? What, he been a head coach for 1 year and lost 5 games?
Yeah.
He went 7-5 at Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't care again. I know Michigan lost a lot of players and lost a lot of coaches, but how can you be a top 20 coach, man, if you've coached 1 year and you're 7-5?
Because they paid for Bryce Underwood, I guess.
Yeah. I disagree with that. And I definitely disagree with Kiffin being all the way down at 17, man.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about this with some of the folks on X recently that were saying that Kiffin had underachieved and all this stuff. No, he is overachieved at Ole Miss. The fact that Ole Miss this past year won 10 games, counting their bowl game, and people are touting that as underachieving.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin, in 3 of the 4 years he's been a head coach at Ole Miss, or 3 of the 5, whatever it is. In 3 of the years, it's either 4 years or 5 years that Kiffin's been at Ole Miss. He has the most wins in the single season. Before he got there, the most wins in a single season at Ole Miss was 10. He's done that 3 times already in 4 or 5 years at Ole Miss. Think about that. They won 10 games this past year. And people are, and they did. With the talent that they had, they did underachieve.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done such a good job at Ole Miss that we are now saying that 10 wins, everybody is saying that 10 wins is underachieving at Ole Miss, when before he got there, that was literally the most wins in Ole Miss football single season history.
Yeah.
And he won 11 games a couple of years ago, which is the most wins 2 years ago when they beat Penn State in the Peach Bowl. That's the most wins in Ole Miss football single season history.
Yeah.
And we've got a list of guys that has him all the way down at 17, and we've got people acting like he's underachieving at Ole Miss.
Yeah. If you thought that Dion at 7 was crazy and Mario Cristobal at 11 was crazy, number 21 is Bill Belichick. Like, what is he even doing on this list?
He hasn't coached a game. And again, I know, I think you know the answer to this. It's obviously what he's, but like, here's the thing. If you're going to put him on the list at all, that means that you're including, obviously, what he's done in his professional football career. Obviously, because he hasn't coached a single game yet. So if you're putting him on the list, why would he not be all the way up at number 1 or number 2?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're putting him on the list in general, why is he down at 21?
Yeah.
That's my problem with that.
Yeah.
And again, man, I know he's the butt of a ton of jokes, and it seems like that a lot of people just don't like the guy. But I'm sorry, Lincoln Riley all the way down at 22. How many Big 12 championships did this guy win? And how many? I think 3 playoff appearances, college football playoff appearances. He won double-digit games his first year at USC. Was like a couple of plays away from being in the college football playoff that first year. And yes, they've underachieved greatly the last 2 years. But the last 2 years does not, in my opinion, wipe out what he's done in overall his career as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't be behind Bill Belichick. Like, that's
he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be behind Deion Sanders.
Yeah,
Mario Cristobal.
Yeah,
Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah, rounding out top 25. Brent Venables, Kalani Sitake, and Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell should be a little higher, honestly.
I think Sitake and Campbell
should
be higher, but I agree. Campbell should absolutely be higher.
What about some names that we did not see on this list? I rattled off 10 or 11 here, just kind of typing away. Rhett Lashley.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're going in order. You're just naming names. You're not going in order.
I'm just naming names.
Okay,
should he be included in the top 25?
Yeah, I was going to say, because number 1 on my list is not even close. I can't believe he's not on this list. It's Chris Kleiman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got to be on this list.
Yeah.
Like, the dude won 8 zillion national titles in North Dakota State. North Dakota State hasn't been the same since he left there. He goes to Kansas State, takes over a dumpster fire. Kansas State has been really good every year he's been there. Even on the down years at K-State since he's been there, he's been really good. He beat Lincoln Riley multiple times when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma, and nobody was beating Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma. I just can't believe Kleiman's not on this list. Lashley, for me, I mean, I'd have him on here ahead of.
You probably got to put him top 20 because, I mean, you have to decide whether he's top 20 or not, because we know Sanders and Cristobal and Belichick are all kind of what they are on this list.
Sherrone Moore wouldn't be top 20 for me.
Yes, I mean, would Lashley be ahead of those guys?
I'd have Lashley ahead of Sherrone Moore.
Yeah.
Cristobal, I mean, I'd have him ahead of Cristobal, but like, if you really take a look at Cristobal's overall career, maybe wins and stuff, I don't have it right in front of me, like maybe, but like Lashley probably would be definitely top 25, but it's possible he'd be top 20.
Let me throw some more rapid fire to you. Shane Beamer.
No, but he's close.
Okay.
I could see him top 25 because, again, I would have him ahead of, right now, Sherrone Moore, Bill Belichick, and Deion.
Yeah.
So I would probably have him top 25. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go Jeff Monken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Out of all the names, him and Kleiman, I don't care that it's group of 5, what Monken has done at Army, the amount of games that he's won at Army, and doing it in different ways, going to that gun option, spread option deal from just the traditional triple option, multiple defensive coordinators that have all done a really good job. And I mean, yeah, he absolutely would be on there.
Hugh Freeze?
No.
Okay. Jeff Brom?
It's a good one. We're starting to eliminate names and add names. I'll get back to you. Maybe top 25.
Okay.
So we got Monken, for sure, Monken and Kleiman.
Yeah. Maybe Lashley.
Lashley did beat Louisville this year, but Brom did a really good job at Purdue. He's done really well at Louisville so far. We'll come back to that one to see if I put him in the top 25.
We're throwing Bill Belichick and Sharon Moore on there. What about Mike Elko?
Not yet, but he could climb this list in a hurry.
Okay. I mean, he's not technically a first-year head coach. What he did at Duke was pretty.
Yeah, what he did at Duke, he did at Duke, but he could climb this list. And again, like I said, names that I would. Let's just do this. So far, I've got 2 that I would add to this list.
Okay.
Because again, if I'm adding to the list, who are you taking out?
Yeah.
So I'm taking out Dion for sure. I'm taking out Bill Belichick for sure. I'm taking out Sharon Moore for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 that I'm taking out.
Probably.
I'm taking out Brent Venables.
Yeah.
I'm taking out Brent Venables. He hasn't done enough yet at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He's definitely 3 years at Oklahoma. Has had 2 Lowell seasons and one really good one.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's out. That's 4 I'm taking out.
Yeah.
I'm taking Dillingham out, man. I mean, he won one good year, and he's a top 25 coach. Maybe he is, but I don't think he hasn't done enough yet to like what some of these other guys have.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just say 4 for sure.
Okay.
I'll leave a little bit depending on who else you name. The others,
I got a handful more here.
All right, go ahead.
Pat Narduzzi.
No.
Okay. Matt Rule.
Gosh, what he did at Baylor and Temple.
I mean, Matt Rule is basically just an older, like a more seasoned Kenny Dillingham. Like he hasn't done much, but he sucked his first years and then improved every year after that.
Not yet. I mean, honestly, man, is he actually a top 25 coach? Like, this sounds stupid to say, but I don't know any other way to say it. Is he one of the best 25 coaches in college football? Yes. Does his resume overall, as far as the amount of wins and all of that and all he's accomplished, stack up to say that? Probably not.
Okay.
So far, I've only got 2 for sure that I'm putting in the top 25.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Greg Schiano.
God, you're good, bro. Oh, man. I mean, he literally had what was Rutgers that year, that one year, that magical year? Didn't they get ranked like number 2 in the country or one point or something?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no. But damn good football coach, but I'm gonna say no.
How about your boy Jed Fish?
Not yet, but he could quickly get there.
Okay.
He could quickly get there. He again, he's in that category of what Dillingham or whatever, or Signetti. Like he had a really good year at Arizona, one really good year at Arizona.
Yeah.
But a couple more good years, he could climb in here.
One more. Mike Gundy. Dude lost his over or under win total for the first time ever last year.
He's in there, man. He's in there.
Yeah.
He's in there. He's got to be in there. I mean, the longevity of what he's overall, what he's done at Oklahoma State, he's got to be in there. All right.
Yeah.
So that's 3 added, right?
Yeah. You got any more names you thought of?
No, honestly, I haven't. Those were good ones, though, man. I said I would take out 4, I added 3, so I'm adding Matt Rule.
Okay.
I'm going to add Matt Rule as a top 25 coach.
Okay.
I'm taking out Belichick, Dion, Brent Venables, and Sharon Moore. That's the 4 I'm taking out.
Okay.
Good stuff, man. You want to go first with your list?
Yeah, let's go.
Or do you want to kind of go like alternate a little bit? Like you give your top 5, I'll give my top 5.
I'll go first. I'll give my top 5, and then we'll hit yours. So
cool.
Number 1, Kirby Smart. Pretty simple.
Yep.
Nearly an 85% winning clip, 2 national championships, 3-time SEC national champion, or 3-time SEC champion. Won the Coach of the Year in the SEC a couple times too. So that's a no-brainer right now to anyone who pays attention to college football. My number 2, I got Dabo as my number 2.
I figured you might. I know you've been, since you and I have been doing this podcast, when we talk about coaches, you're still really high on the fact of obviously what he's accomplished overall in his career. And don't blame you.
Like you mentioned, I mean, yeah, he's doing things his own way, and he went to the playoffs last year, albeit in a down ACC. But again, we've had the privilege of kind of marinating on these lists for 2 or 3 weeks now. All Clemson has done is just nail some guys in the recruiting ranks. Like,
yeah,
they've got some dudes who are coming in, and he's dipped his toe into the portal a little bit. He's got a 793 win percentage, 2 national championships. He's won the ACC 9 times, 3-time Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award winner. So I think Ari was pretty disrespectful putting him at number 6.
So I think that Dabo I think Josh Pate put this well recently when he was talking about Clemson and Dabo, that people that are kind of hating on Dabo, obviously there's a lot of that going on the last couple of years. It's the same thing, man, that like your Alabamas and Ohio States and stuff like that. Like the standard that Clemson set over that period of time where they just were dominant with Deshaun Watson and with Trevor Lawrence and all those receivers that they had during that time and those defenses with Brent Venables, like just winning 12 games every year, playing in multiple national championship games, winning multiple national championships, just how dominant they were during that time. That is still the standard that everyone really holds them to. Yeah. Like even Clemson fans in general, like that's the standard that they're expecting Clemson to put out. And like the last few years, they're just not there.
Yeah.
But this coming up year, with the talent that they have coming back at receiver, with Cade Klubnik coming back, with what they've got bringing back on defense, bringing in Tom Allen as a DC, like if Dabo and Clemson this year were to lose 3 games, I think that it would be fair to start maybe dropping him a little bit on these lists. Yeah. But it's absolutely fair to say that your Steve Sarkisians and Dan Lannings, for example, haven't done enough yet in their career to overtake what Dabo has done in the longevity of his career. And again, a down year this past year for Dabo.
Yeah.
And they win the ACC championship and they're in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 3, I got Ryan Day. 87.5 winning percentage, 1 national championship, 2-time Big Ten champ. Just has a Michigan problem right now. So I think Ryan Day at 3 is pretty solid. 4, I do have Sark. He's probably, I think he's the lowest win percentage on my list. And it's a 618 winning percentage, but he's nearly 70% at Texas. He's gone to back-to-back Final Fours. Yeah, he's got a freaking war chest to work with there in Texas with all the money, the NIL, like embarrassment of riches, right? So it's CFP at least or bust for them every year, and the natives are going to start getting restless if he, can't somehow get it over the hump, especially with Arch taking over at quarterback. And then 5, I got Marcus Freeman, 1 national championship appearance, 1-time Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award winner, 767 winning percentage. Really kind of the biggest monkey on his back, which he kind of, after week 2, squashed it the rest of the year, but was just losing those games that you just shouldn't lose.
Like the Marshalls, the Stanfords, the year
Northern
before.
Illinois, all that.
Illinois,
so, and I mean, when you compare him to Sark with the amount, with the stuff that they're, I mean, obviously they got money, but like with the amount of talent they bring compared to Texas or Ohio State or Georgia, it's definitely less. So, I think he's doing a pretty good job there in the first couple of years at Notre Dame. So that's my top 5.
I like it, man. I mean, obviously we're not too far off here. I've got Kirby at number 1 for obvious reasons. He is the undisputed number 1 head coach in all of college football, and there is no debate for that. Number 2, I've got Ryan Day. I battled number 2 and number 3 here, man. I mean, the recency bias with him winning a national championship, obviously you do have to have that factored in, that he did just win a natty. Yes, I know he lost 2 regular season games, but like we talked about, man, going on the run that he went on in this playoff with a 12-team playoff now, it does allow for a run like Ohio State just went on to where a team might play like 4 really like very highly ranked teams to put a notch under their belt to beat a teams like Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame all on a 4-game stretch. And then you throw in, he also beat 2 other playoff teams in the regular season in Indiana and Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
His winning percentage, like you said, has been incredible overall in his career. He just has a Michigan problem, which I don't know if he'll ever get over that problem or not. But the fact that he did win a national championship and he did win as many big games as he did this past year, and he does have such a high winning percentage overall in his career. I've got Ryan Day at 2. I've got Dabo at 3. I, again, teetered with the point of maybe having him a little bit lower. But like I said a minute ago, I just don't think that the 3 names that I've got behind him after this have done enough yet in their careers to overtake Dabo's overall resume. Like, again, I know that a lot of people out there are going to say, like, that's the standard that Dabo and Clemson have set for themselves is the reason why that a lot of people think that Dabo has fallen off. They just won the ACC championship, and people think that he's fallen off.
Yeah.
That's because of the standard they set with the Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence years. Number 4 and 5 was really hard for me. 4 through 6 actually was really hard for me. Number 4, I've got Sark. And it's honestly for no other reason than the fact of they're the only team in the country that's been to back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. They're the only team that can say that. Nobody else in college football can say that. And I know we live in this NIL and transfer portal world, and a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, if you can go just buy all the best players and you have more money than everybody else, of course you're going to be talented. That's the world we live in, okay? That just is. That's where we are. That's where college football is right now. And I'm not necessarily going to just hold it against Sark and act like that he's not that good of a coach just because he gets better players. They still do get better players, and he's done a wonderful job also of hiring a fantastic staff around him, an elite job of hiring a great staff around him. And the overall talent acquisition and the staff that he's hired around him, and yes, they have had a little bit of help with their schedules the last couple of years, not being maybe as difficult as others, of the reason why they are in back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. Number 5 for me was Dan Lanning. Lanning is number 5 for me, obviously, because I talked about it a minute ago. In my opinion, he did get one of the big monkeys that was on his back of winning the bigger games. He hadn't done that until this year. Beating Ohio State in the regular season, who went on to win the national championship. I know they got their cheeks clapped in the Rose Bowl by Ohio State later on, but they still beat the Buckeyes in the regular season this year. And in this first year in the Big Ten, they won the Big Ten championship and beat Penn State, who ended up being a college football playoff semifinal team. So I've got Lanning with a Big Ten championship under his belt at number 5.
Okay. 6 through 10. Number 6, I got Kyle Whittingham.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're gonna
love my boy Whit.
Dude, you're going to hate where I got him, man.
I love my boy Whit. 21 years he's been at this.
I feel like I have absolutely disrespected him with you having him at 6.
I mean, you mentioned 21 years, the transition from the Mountain West to, the Pac-12 and now to the Big 12. Obviously, it was a rocky first year in that conference. And if you look him up on Wikipedia, one of the random pollsters out there gave him a national championship in 2008. So he could consider him a national championship winning coach. But, he's won.
He's too tough to claim natties like UCF did.
Sure. He's won 66% of his games at Utah, one-time National Coach of the Year, many Rose Bowl appearances and wins, had some wins over a lot of really big-time coaches, and it really has just been a steady ship. So, yeah, his steadiness, his longevity at Utah, not jumping ship when he was in the Mountain West and going somewhere bigger, just kind of wanting to build something, and build it he has. So, got respect for Kyle Whittingham. Like I said on Ari's list, right behind him, I got Kalen DeBoer. So I guess maybe you're disrespecting Whit. I'm disrespecting your boy Dan Lanning because I haven't said him yet. I got DeBoer ahead of Lanning because DeBoer owns Lanning.
Well, to be fair, you have been a Kalen DeBoer guy since day one. When you and I started recording this podcast a couple of years ago, you were all over KD, no doubt.
780 win percentage. Went to the national championship, took Washington to the national championship against Michigan. I know they were just absolutely loaded on offense, but he brought a lot of those guys in. Michael Penix, what he did at Fresno, what he did as a coordinator at Indiana. Just a lot of respect for the guy. Rough first year in Alabama with 9 wins. Like, a lot of people would take that. So, obviously, we'll talk a lot more about him in the offseason heading into the 2025 season. But Kalen DeBoer, number 7 for me. Number 8, don't like the guy, but Brian Kelly. Got to put Brian Kelly number 8. 728 win percentage, 1 national championship appearance at Notre Dame, 2 more CFP appearances at Notre Dame. And so that's a lot to be said. He, unfortunately, for people who hate Brian Kelly out there, he's probably going to have a year where he gets it done in LSU.
Could be this year.
Yeah, if he doesn't have more success than he's had there, a lot of people will be surprised. Probably first and foremost, Brian Kelly. So,
Yep.
I mean, I think he expects to win. Obviously, it's a lot tougher in the SEC, but he expects to win at a high clip, winning, over 70% of his games. So
yeah, he expects to win a national championship. When he got the job there, like he walked to the podium and said exactly what he should say. A guy that has won at the level he's been at, he said, "We expect to win championships here, and you should at LSU. Absolutely, you should. If Les Miles and Coach O can win national titles there, a guy that's as good of a coach as Brian Kelly should be able to win them there as well."
Exactly. Number 9, here comes Lanning. Dan Lanning, I got number 9. He's 85.4 winning percentage. All the reasons you mentioned, Big Ten champion, went to the Pac-12 championship game last year. I think he's lost 6 total games in his career or something at Oregon.
He's won at a ridiculous level early on.
Fantastic record, fantastic recruiter. Again, like Sark, he's got a war chest he's working with up there with Phil Knight and the Nike money. So, again, like Brian Kelly, sooner rather than later, Dan Lanning's going to get it done. He's going to make a run. And again, could be this year. And number 10, we kind of glossed over him on Ari's list, but I got Josh Heupel number 10. He's got a 739 win percentage at UCF and Tennessee. Like, what he's done so far at Tennessee, I think he's won like 71% of his games at Tennessee. And like, they were darn near a train wreck, right? I mean, they had a couple good years, but how many years in a row had they lost to Alabama? Like 15?
Yeah, it was a lot. And dude, you're right. People truly don't understand how bad of a situation that was, and especially with the NCAA investigation that was looming over them with the Jeremy Pruitt stuff. That when they hired the AD from UCF, and then everybody just thought that the UCF AD, I think Danny White's his name or whatever, went out and was just hiring his buddy from UCF and Josh Heupel. And
they wanted to hire Greg Schiano.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And dude, so many people made fun of that Josh Heupel hire. Like it was like even Tennessee fans despised it.
Yeah.
And then in a hurry, he won at I think year 2. Won, what was it, 11 games? 11-2.
Yep.
With Hendon Hooker in that bunch. And again, this year they're in the college football playoffs. So yeah, man, Tech, I have no problem with Josh Heupel being ranked high on your list.
Yep, he's my number 10.
All right. So 6 through 10 for me. Again, going to be obviously some of the same names, some not. Number 6 for me, I got your boy. Maybe I should start calling him my boy too, Marcus Freeman.
Everybody's boy.
I mean, just incredible culture builder. Obviously, some recency bias involved in here, and rightfully so. Taking Notre Dame to the national championship game this past year with all of the injuries that they had, just remarkable what he was able to do with this team this past year. And again, talent acquisition, building a culture, and how you like hire a staff around you. What type of staff? Like, can you do an elite job of hiring good people around you? He has done that and more. Hiring Mike Denbrock as his OC was one of the best hires. We talked about that a lot going into last year, what that could mean. And it was incredible. Al Golden is his defensive coordinator, obviously did an incredible job that Golden did. And he's hired other positional coaches, and he's had people coming after his GM. I mean, the overall staff, the people that Marcus Freeman put around him has been incredible. And as long as Marcus Freeman is the head coach at Notre Dame, the Irish will be in good hands. So I've got him at 6. I've got Kalen DeBoer at 7. I think you had him at 7 too, didn't you? Yeah, I've got DeBoer at 7. Again, his winning percentage overall in his entire career, dating back to his days at Sioux Falls, what he did at Fresno, what he did at Washington, year 1 at Alabama. I know people are going to say that all the talent that he had and stuff, he still did a decent job in year 1, but not as good as what obviously is expected at Alabama. I mean, the greatest coach in the history of the game retired in the same calendar year. And he had to take over a roster, and they lost so many players in the transfer portal. He's pretty much drinking from a fire hose, trying to, figure out that situation. And they were one spot away from making the 12-team playoff. That did not do it. Him not making the playoff in year one at Alabama, to me, did not deduct him enough to where he shouldn't be a top 10 coach at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now he doesn't make it this year. We can have a conversation. I've got Brian Kelly at 8. Again, for all the reasons that you said a minute ago. His winning percentage overall, winningest coach in Notre Dame history, multiple playoff appearances at Notre Dame. He has underachieved the last couple of years at LSU with the overall talent level that they've had there. If they underachieve again this year, he will fall more on this list. He was one that would have been higher on my list. I went back and looked at it. We did a coaches list going into this past year, or I did one. He was higher on my list. So he has dropped a few on my list just from the last couple of years, but he's still a top 10 coach. Number 9 for me, Big Game James. I've got James Franklin at 9. Again, I know he doesn't win the games that he's an underdog in. He doesn't win the games against, the top tier teams, but he still wins a ton of college football games, multiple Rose Bowl appearances, made a college football playoff semifinal appearance this year, Big Ten championship game appearance, multiple Big Ten championship game appearances, has a Big Ten championship under his belt. I just think it's still so funny that we said it, and so many people that cover this sport and talk about this sport said it, that the 12-team playoff was just created for someone like James Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the first year, he takes Penn State to the college football playoff semifinals and is pretty much a Drew Aller interception away at the end of that game from probably playing for a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10, I talked about this a minute ago. Everybody thinks that this guy underachieved this past year. And I just can't keep getting over the fact that Lane Kiffin, the job that he's done at Ole Miss, I know his antics and his stuff on Twitter, and a lot of that distracts people from the fact of what an incredible job he's doing in Oxford, Mississippi. Again, before Lane Kiffin got to Oxford, got to Ole Miss's like single season record of wins in their program's history was 10 wins. He's done that 3 times just since taking over in 2020. 3. And he has the most wins in a single season in Ole Miss history 2 years ago when they beat Penn State in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl where they won 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
He has gotten Ole Miss to the point to where they go 9-3, 10 wins with a bowl win, and everybody is making fun of him, saying that they underachieved. That is where he has this Ole Miss football program now.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss is one of only, I think it's 2 teams that has never made it in like the original SEC, that has never made it to Atlanta for an SEC championship game appearance. And he's winning 10, 11 games just about every year now at Ole Miss. So I don't think he's underachieved at Ole Miss. I think he's overachieved at Ole Miss. And so I've got him at 10.
Okay. Let's round out our top 15. At 11, this is where I have James Franklin. This dude won 61% of his games at Vanderbilt, right? In 3 years at Vanderbilt, he won 9 games twice at Vandy. So that's pretty impressive. 68.7 winning percentage. Everything you said. He wins the games he's supposed to. He loses the games he's supposed to. That's just kind of what it is with James Franklin right now. Mm-hmm. So, again, with like some of these coaches, like there's going to be a time where he's eventually going to get it done. But regardless, he's properly rated. As Josh Pate always says, he's properly rated. He's not overrated. He's not underrated. He's properly rated. So, number 12, I will be shocked if you even have this guy in your top 15. But I've got much respect for Kirk Ferentz at Iowa.
I don't have him in my top 15, but hey, man, the longevity that he's had at his career at Iowa and still finding ways to win games without even scoring points for all those years.
Yeah.
His system, the way he does, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I don't hate the fact that you have him in your top 15. I probably should have him at 15 instead of the guy that I've got at 15, but we'll get to that in a minute. But
Ferentz and Whittingham, like I always ask myself, what would Kyle Whittingham do at Alabama, right? Yeah. At a place like Alabama, what would Kirk Ferentz do at Ohio State, right? I mean, you got to think of what they're working with compared to some of these other teams that they're going up against year in and year out. So to be able to do what he's done for 26 seasons now.
Yeah.
And like you said, winning games by just punting the ball from the opposing 40-yard line, and winning 10 games a year, like it seems like every year, and going to Big Ten championships and everything, being a game away from making college football playoffs, like pretty darn impressive at a place like Iowa in the middle of nowhere. So much respect for Kirk Ferentz. 13, I got Kurt Cignetti, 83.3 win percentage. Yeah, prisoner of the moment. IU obviously taking Indiana to the college football playoff, but what he did at JMU has been impressive. What he did at IUP was impressive. And again,
wasn't he like at Elon winning a ton of games?
Yeah,
at Elon and stuff too.
Dude's just a winner.
Just Google him. Yeah, I mean, dude
he's
wins.
just a winner.
Yeah.
Number 14, your boy you mentioned earlier, Chris Kleiman, winning 63% of his games at Kansas State, following Bill Snyder. Those are big, those are big shoes to fill. And like you said, beating Lincoln Riley, going to Big 12 championships, beating TCU in the Big 12 championship a couple years ago to win that game. He just knows how to get it done. Again, same thing with Ferentz and Whittingham. Like, what would he do if he was at a bigger school, right?
Yep.
With more resources and all that. So really good coach. 15 is where I got Lane Kiffin. 671 win percentage, like you mentioned. 7-10 at Ole Miss, winning 10, 11 games a year. Yeah, like Lanning, like the other coaches, it's like, what have you done in the big games? That's all these coaches. That's all quarterbacks and coaches, man. Like, what have you done in big games? Who have you beat? Who have you beat?
Who you beat?
And he got that monkey off his back a little bit this year, beating Georgia, and he's won some other big games. But again, he's got to stop laying those stinkers, man, to Kentucky and all that stuff. So I think he'll eventually get the Rebels to the playoffs. But yeah, Lane Kiffin rounds out the top 15 for me.
Good stuff, man. At number 11, I've got our boy, Kyle Whittingham. I feel almost disrespectful after the case you made for him, at 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he might, I could see, he probably should be higher on my list, but I've got Whit at 11. Again, like he's just a factory, man. Winning games in this past year, just an awful season for Utah this past year. They got bit hard by the injury bug. Be interesting to see.
2 years, they've just injuries, man. Cam Rising not playing. They got some pig farmer out there a couple years ago throwing tutties and beating USC. Like, yeah.
Imagine if Cam Rising seriously would not have gotten injured and like where Utah probably would have been these last couple of years. I mean, not having a quarterback, obviously in college football, like they had guys that literally had a lot of trouble just completing a forward pass.
He's got one coming in this year in Devin Dampier.
Yes, he does. I was just getting ready to say, bringing in the OC from New Mex and bringing in Dampier at quarterback. I'm interested to see. Can't wait to see what Utah looks like this year with that style of a quarterback and a little bit of an exciting offense there.
Yeah.
Number 12, Josh Heupel, for all the reasons that you said earlier, taking over the situation that he took over at Tennessee. He did a good job at UCF, but UCF did take a little bit of a down, turn after. You see, the dog even thinks that Josh Heupel should be a little bit higher on the list.
Yeah.
But Heupel probably should be a little higher. I could see that as well. But I've got him at 12 for everything that he's accomplished so far at Tennessee. 11 wins a couple of years ago. College football playoff appearance this past year. 13. I can't believe you didn't have him on your list, man. This is the only one I think I disagree with you on. Lincoln Riley. I've got Lincoln Riley at 13. And again, I know the last couple of years, what USC underachieving for what USC should be doing, and as good of a coach as Lincoln Riley is. But what he accomplished at Oklahoma overall was incredible. Ever since he's left Oklahoma, they have absolutely taken a dip into what the standards have been set at Oklahoma by Bob Stoops, and then Lincoln Riley carried it on from there. And so I've got him at 13.
Yeah, I think my thing with Lincoln is like every other name on this list has had really, really extremely successful seasons without Heisman winning quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I've yet to see Lincoln do that. And I mean, yeah, it was his fault for hiring his, buddy Alex Grinch to be defensive coordinator when Caleb Williams was there. And, they just, he's not made great hires. So he's got D'Anton Lynn there now. So yeah, you got to do it. You got to be a well-rounded head coach. You can't just be a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, I totally get that. And interesting to see what USC does going forward with D'Anton Lynn now at DC. I know he was there this past year, but
Yeah.
what they're going to look like going forward. Number 14 for me was Chris Kleiman. And it's not only what he did, what he's been doing at Kansas State. It's very impressive what he's done at Kansas State. But North Dakota State was in all levels of college football. They were the biggest factory of just a flat out championship, just year after year, a winner in North Dakota State. He carried that tradition on there and took them even to higher levels while he was there. Since he's left there, they have not been the same, not even close to the standard that had been set there for the Bison. And so him going from that and then going to Kansas State and doing what he's done at Kansas State, obviously he's a hell of a football coach. So he's at 14, and at 15, Coach Siggs, baby. Google him. For all the reasons you said earlier. What he's done at JMU, what he did at Elon, what he did at previous stops, and then taking one of the worst football programs in all of power conferences to a college football playoff in year one at Indiana.
Yeah.
That absolutely warrants you being top 15, top 20 overall as a head coach. So he's who I have at 15. He was the one I was referring to a minute ago for the longevity that Kirk Ferentz has had at Iowa. I'm not going to argue with you if you want to put Ferentz ahead of Cignetti because of what Ferentz has done overall in his career. But I just can't get over the recency bias, man, of what Siggs did in his first year at Indiana. Plus, I like the guy. So this is my list. So I got him at 15.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys indulging us, during conference tournament weekend here, talking a little college football head coaches. We love lists. We're definitely going to put out some more lists later on this season. This will probably be one of them. So you'll see this pop up here in a couple months. Just, scrolling through TikTok, at Always Talking Ball, or Instagram at Always Talking Ball, YouTube Shorts, anything like that. You're going to see it pop up, and you're like, oh, yeah, those guys did do a list. Maybe I should go check out their entire episode. So appreciate you guys listening. Like I said, we're going to be back next week. We're going to talk some March Madness. We're going to talk, who's going to cut down the nets, who we think is going to cut down the nets. Will it be Auburn? Will it be Alabama? Will it be Duke, Houston, Florida? So many good teams this year. Should be fun to watch. Next, 4 weekends of the sports calendar with basketball and then the Masters coming up. So awesome. After that, we'll talk some spring games, what teams are actually having spring games. We'll talk that. We'll talk post top 25 rankings after spring ball. Then we'll get into just kind of ramping up towards the season for 3 or 4 months. And it's going to be a fun time of the year, man. We're going to have a great list of guests on. So we appreciate you guys for following along. Subscribe to the show, send it to your friends. Lance, you got anything else to add?
No, man. You could follow the show also on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We put out some great reels and stuff on those social media sites as well. And like Tyler said, give us a subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out. Doesn't cost you a thing. If you think this show is good, we're not asking for freebies. If you think this is a good show, send this along to your friends that you think that they love college sports and college football in general. We just love talking ball with you guys. So we appreciate you joining us.
All right. We'll see you next time.